is we're going to start with the financial report, talk about our membership, computer club matters, our class schedule. Then we'll be doing some community matters. And we do have an update on property tax assessments. Some of you got your property tax notices recently. And then our feature presentation today is going to be on the iPhone versus Android phone, iOS 13 and Android 10. So starting off with the financial report, pretty much the same as last month. Looks like we have about $100 more than we did last month. So we're in good shape. And our membership is going up every month. We're now up to 1,574. So if any of you are still sitting on the sidelines and haven't joined the computer club, why not join today? And our meetings, we are meeting today. This is the second Saturday of the month. We have 2 more second Saturdays that we'll be meeting at, and that'll be in November 9th and December 14th. And then in 2020, we switched to Thursdays. So we'll be meeting on the second Thursday of the month. That'll be January 9th and February 13th, and that will continue throughout 2020. And as far as our computer lab goes, we have our schedule is Mondays and Thursdays from 9 to 12, and Tuesday evenings from 5:30 to 8:30. And as always, remember to bring your passwords with you. And we have our Apple group meets on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month at 9 o'clock in the morning, and our Sun City Photography group meets on the first Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. Both of those in the computer lab. Uh-oh.
Yeah, he's not here.
Come
on, next slide.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we'll pass on this. If you're looking for the class schedules, those will be mailed to you.
Already were.
Oh, it's on the next slide. Oh, there it is.
Next slide.
Okay, so, here's a list of a few of the upcoming classes. We've got an introduction to iPhone, iOS 13, and that's going to be on, it looks like this coming Tuesday at 1 o'clock. So if you want a more detailed presentation on iOS 13, then come then. Android phones, there'll be a presentation of that on Thursday, October 17th. So that's next Thursday. And then we have another Android phone class coming up on Tuesday, October 22nd, and that's at 10:30 in the morning. And finally, there's a class on phishing, spam, telephone, and computer scams, and that'll be on Wednesday, October 23rd, and that's at 6:30. Okay, getting to community matters. The next board meeting for the Sun City Board is Wednesday, October 23rd at 9 o'clock in the morning in this room. We have our Sun City Consumer Showcase coming up. That's Thursday, October 24th, and that's pretty much the whole day, 9:30 to 4:30 throughout the lodge. Okay, we're going to get a brief demo of how to get to the property tax assessments. And Steve Bittner will be presenting that from the property tax assessments group.
Yeah, we'll do it here. But I gotta change it. No, use that. Yeah, use this.
Hello. Is it on?
Not on.
Hey, you get it done.
What was that?
Wow. Testing.
Yeah, it's working.
Is it working?
Yes. Yeah.
Here, make it work. Hello. That one works. How many have gone to the property tax website and looked at the results? Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly show you how to get there and then what to look for when you're comparing your assessment against others. Okay. Yeah. Okay, we need it projected.
Come on.
And you think you guys have trouble with your computers? Okay, I hope everyone could get to the Sun City website opening page here. If not, just Google Sun City Huntley and you'll get there. We need to log on. Now I gotta remember my number. Does it automatically, okay. Let's see if I get it right. Sign in. Authentication failed. Jeez.
Can someone else sign in?
Okay. Okay, once we're signed in, you go to lifestyle, clubs, and then the resident special interest groups. Click on that. About halfway down in the middle, property tax assessment group. Click on that. Then you get to the pre-tag website. To access present and past assessment model reports, click here. And what we're looking for is, I want to bring up the Rutland, but when the Grafton come out, the Grafton should come out, I'm assuming, within the next 3 weeks. So we click on Rutland. We could pick any year we want, 2019, the present assessments. And we have a list of models there. And that's 3 pages worth. So you have to, so if you're in a York, you have to get to the last page, of course. I'll just bring up the acclaim. This comes up as a PDF. And the thing to notice about it is that it's a number of pages that need to go side by side. So this is a total of 4 pages. And this is the first page. This is the second page. But the third page matches up with that first page, correct? So page 1 matches up with page 3, page 2 with page 4. Print them out, paste them side by side, and then you have a long spreadsheet. Okay, the thing to note in when you're looking at it is this column that's highlighted in light blue. I don't know how it comes out on that screen. There's no color, but it's the 2019 building divided by the total square foot. That's the assessment per square foot. And you find yourself there, and then you compare yours against others. If you look at these numbers, I don't know if you could read them, but the bottom number, 3509, the top number, is 3561. So very tight range, which means you probably did a very good job with the assessments this year. This year was the quadrennial. The assessments are done by law. You should look at individual assessments every 4 years. And it looks like you really did it. If you look over to the columns on what you're charged for, it's, the patio deck and whatever, and then especially what's on the first page, fireplaces, square footage, etc. You can usually tell you usually can tell on why yours is higher than the others, some others. The other thing to look at is the sale price. I have the sale prices highlighted in blue. That's the last 3 years. So if you're going to appeal, that's the only sales you can use are the ones for the last 3 years. You need to compare those sales against what your fair market value is. The fair market value is 3 times the total assessment. And in this particular case, if we, these fair market values are around 173. And if we look at the sales, we have 146, 195, 190, 175, 190. You'll see that the sales are higher than the fair market values. So you don't have a basis for appeal then, right? Because you have to find ones that are lower, not just one of them. So it looks like you did a pretty good job, but unfortunately, the assessments for the average assessment for all of Sun City in Rutland went up 6.55%. Some of you probably went minus. Who went minus that vote? Okay, a couple. Who went up? Okay, more. But I guess that's life. And it is because our housing values are going up, and they're going up quite a bit, especially for the smaller models. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Steve, for that. Now we're going to get on to our feature presentation, which is iPhone versus Android phone. And the first half will be on iOS 13, the iPhone. And David Good will be making that presentation.
Good morning. Making a small change in technology. For background, I do the slides on my iMac. It's PowerPoint. I move them to my iPad for presentation. So it makes it all very simple. Suggest if you're interested and you're using any of the Apple products to come to the Apple group meetings on Tuesdays evenings at the computer lab. So what's new and improved in iPhone iOS 13? When iOS 13 was launched, a couple of things happened. The iPad family got its own iPad OS 13, so they could further develop it. They've added some new features on the iPad, separate from what was done on the phones. At the same time, there was yet another new operating system launched for the iMacs. So now there are 3 complementary operating systems in the Apple family. Which phones can use the iOS 13? Here's your list. So if you have anything as old as the 6S or the prior SE up to the current iPhone 11, 11 Pro Max, the iOS 13 will run on your phone. Now, the overwhelming question is, that's great, how do I get iOS 13 on my phone? Well, now we know which phones can do it. How do you get there? How many in the room have iPhones? All right, I'm going to show you how to do it, but don't do it here and now. Because it takes about a half hour and it will dry your battery, run it right out. So do it when you get home. Here's your settings, which is, a gearbox, if you will. It's our friend. You click on settings, you come up with this screen. Down at the very bottom is general. You click on general. There it is, software update. You click on that, and it tells you what version of software you have on your phone. And in that same box, you would click on update now. Then ask you to log in, and you just leave it plugged in to come back in 20 minutes and click the install now button, and in another 10 minutes you're up and running. It's that difficult to do. Where can I get more information on iOS 13? Well, you click on your App Store icon, that blue one, and then you'll find, you have to search for it probably, for the books icon. You click on that, and you get one of the few free items from Apple. The iPhone User's Guide. Make sure you get the one that's iOS 13, not 12. 12 won't help you, get 13. Download that. It's about 1,500 pages, so it's very, 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 very detailed, but it has everything you'd ever want to know about iOS 13. And by the way, the current version is 13.1.2. They had some bug fixes and other security issues to address. Now, where else can I get information on iOS 13? As Shelley mentioned earlier, we have a class next Tuesday at the computer lab at 1 o'clock. Seating is limited. For members only, it's free. If you want to come to the class and you're not a member, we have people in the back of the room waiting to take your money. How many of you like getting robocalls? Nobody? Oh, come on. Would you like to silence your robocalls? Here's how you can do it on your iPhone. You start with the settings icon. Here we are in settings. And you go to what else? Phone. Click on phone. Down at the bottom right-hand corner in the red box, silence unknown callers. That's your robocallers. It blocks numbers that are not in your contacts or your address book, or if it's a return of a call you have made, that will ring through as well as those that are in your contact list. So those calls you get from the Internal Revenue Service or Social Security, or better yet, I love it. I love getting calls from the Microsoft people saying I've got a problem with my computer. And I mess with them for about 20 minutes and say, gee, I have a Mac, and they hang up. Would you like to block some email? Some problems you have today. Go to settings again, then to general, and then to mail up there at the top. And then at the bottom, block sender options. So you can identify that insurance salesman that keeps bugging you, or your broker that you fired 3 years ago that wants you to come, whatever, or your bookie, no, wrong. But you can block those people, and the emails will come in and go directly to the trash. You don't have to worry about it. Now, dark mode, not to be confused with going over to the dark side, which the Windows people accuse us Apple folks of doing. The dark mode is something that, frankly, they stole from Android. It gives you the ability to change the overall appearance on your phone, like this. On the left is the normal light mode, on the right is the dark mode. Now, dark mode is something that you can set time-wise. The default is sunset and sunrise, so it automatically goes into dark mode at sunset. You can set your own timing on it, like 9 o'clock at night to 5 a.m. or whatever your preferences are, and it'll take care of that for you. On the same screen, there's the slider. Anyway, brightness slider, where you can actually change the brightness of the phone. The caveat is, the higher the brightness, the shorter your battery life per charge. So you're better off to keep the brightness to the lower end. Maps. When Apple first rolled Maps out, they had some real major problems, and most of us stayed with Google Maps. They've rebuilt it from the ground up, made some significant changes, made a lot of corrections. One little additional thing they've done, which I think is pretty neat. How many of you like to go to Woodfield for something to do? Well, now let's say you want to go to Woodfield and you want to go to the Apple store at Woodfield. So on your map, you get down there and you find the Woodfield marker on the map, and you click on that, and this is what happens. The panel on the far left, you see it zoomed in, and in the red square it has Woodfield Mall, look inside. You click on look inside, and the middle panel comes up, and all the dots are the stores. You zoom in further, and you go to the upper level, whoop, you zoom in further, and there's the Apple store in Woodfield. Now, I've checked, Spring Hill Mall is not listed yet. But this is something they're doing across the country. Another thing that they've stolen from Google is Google has this look around, view around option in Maps where you can do 360. Well, Apple has started, of course, in San Francisco, and they've also now added New York and some other major metropolitan East Coast cities, and they'll be coming to the Midwest eventually. So you will be able to do a 360 view in Maps down the road. Bluetooth block. How many of you have a Bluetooth device that you hook up to your phone? Okay. This Bluetooth block is something that is there now by default. It's nothing you have to adjust, really. What you'll get, let's say you're walking through a store and you have your headset on and you start hearing voices. Not the ones you normally hear, but new ones. You'll get a pop-up on your phone saying that so-and-so wants to send you information. You can accept it or block it. Otherwise, it would be blocked Once you block it, it stays blocked. Optimized battery charging. Apple has now some new algorithms that extends the battery life over time and keeps you better charged over time. It learns from how you charge your phone or your iPad. If your practice is to do it overnight, it gives it a quick charge up to about 80%, and then the final 20% is done in that last hour or so before you normally turn the phone on. Wi-Fi tracking. Believe it or not, unless you've turned it off on your phone, any app on your phone can track you via Wi-Fi. This is not quite the same as you see on NCIS where they ping you to the cell towers, but this is Wi-Fi. You can block intruders from tracking you using Wi-Fi to track that you first went to Jewel, and then you went to McDonald's, and then you went to Walmart, and then anyway, you can block the folks from tracking you. Content preview. This is a neat little gimmick. On the left is an email page. If you press down on Bowes Creek Country Club, there in the red box, the panel on the right pops up. So you can preview the email without actually having to open it to see what it says. And you can see on the right-hand panel, you have options. You can reply all, you can delete it. There are other things you can do now without actually having to open up the email. Find My. This used to be Find My iPhone. Find My now is not just your phone, but you can find your spouse, unless they want to be hidden, the grandkids. There are many ways, many things you can find now on the phone that you couldn't do before. It's a matter of setting it up, and yes, you have to get consent from the other party to find them. Photos. They've expanded the editing capabilities in the Photos application. Brightness, contrast, cropping, things that were there before. They've added other things like studio lighting and other functions. So if you use your phone a lot instead of a camera, or use it as a camera, you'll really will appreciate what Photos will do for you now. Do not disturb while driving. State police don't like this one. Come on, be with it. All right, in the settings, you go and you'll find Do Not Disturb. In the right-hand panel, it says Activate Do Not Disturb while driving. So if you're driving and you don't have a headset or you don't have a capability in the car to talk to your phone through your car, this prevents the phone from actually ringing and sends those calls right into the mailbox, or the voicemail box. Here we are. This is a quick summary. If you have questions, come Tuesday afternoon. Thank you.
We'll take a few questions now before we get into the Android phone, and then we'll take more questions later. Questions on iOS?
Up there.
Up there, you have to stand at the podium.
Well, it's not a question, but I just read in the Wall Street Journal, this applies to Android and Apple phones, that the political parties, when you go to a rally or something, are now capturing your IP addresses on phones. They have apps to do that, and they can track voters where they're at on election day, so they can chase down voters who haven't voted.
The app, the iOS 13, you can block it because you will get a notification you want so-and-so to track you, and you can block it. Others?
How about the iPhone earbuds? I've heard that they're not lasting as long as they should.
I'm old-fashioned. I have a headset. I don't know about the iPods, except they're expensive, and they probably do not last as long as people would like. I don't know. Thank you.
this on the screen.
Thank you, Lynn. If you can read it, can you read it? Now, I also wanted to do a follow-up besides that. We're accumulating a lot of lost and found in the lab. We have 3 hats, 2 mice, glasses, several books, several VHS tapes, a lot of slides, even glass slides from Germany, Schwarzwald, and they were in 1958. So if anyone has contact with the lab and think you've left something there, please come in and dig through our lost and found. So we want to reduce the quantity in our lost and found. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lynn.
Okay, now we're on to Android phones and Android 10. There are 2 phone worlds out there right now. It's the Android world and the iPhone world. Used to be more. We had Blackberries. How many people remember the Blackberries? They're still around, but they're using the Android operating system now. Actually, RIM sold to TCL, who's manufacturing them now. These would be Windows phones. Microsoft manufactured Windows phones with the Windows Mobile operating system, they called it, and that's gone now too. They surrendered to the Google Android operating system. So we're going to talk about 4 things, Android versus the iPhone, the Android 10 features, the new features with the Android 10 operating system, which smartphones are going to get updated, which Android phones are going to get updated to Android 10, and the advantages over iOS. Okay, Android versus iPhone. Android, well, they both systems have tons of apps out there, so they're pretty equally matched. Android has about 2.7 million apps, mostly they're free. iPhone has about 2.2 million apps and growing, and so you have pretty well matched, whatever you're looking for on the iPhone or on the Android phone is also available on the other system as well. Okay, then we can talk about expense. iPhones generally are a little more expensive than your Android phones. In order to get into iPhones, you normally have to go to an older one, so you get the iPhone 8 or 9 as opposed to the current model. Whereas with Android, you can get an entry-level phone, and if it's a new phone, it's still going to have Android 10 on it. And the same with mid-range phones. Choices. With Android, there are a lot of different manufacturers, so you have a lot more choices as far as which phones you can get. With iPhones, you're limited to Apple's offerings. Then there are the carriers, whether you're going with Verizon, Sprint, or AT&T or T-Mobile, or one of the other prepaid carriers. It's going to depend on which carrier you're with if you're going to purchase your phone from the carrier. Okay, the next thing we can look at is maps. You saw a little bit, David showed you the Apple map program. Google Maps has pretty much the same thing. So they're probably equally matched. I think the Google Maps is a little bit better, but it's personal preference. If you look at Google Maps, they've added a lot more things on there. I think they have cycling now, which I don't believe Apple has on their map program. But you're going to find that whatever Apple does, Google is going to copy, and whatever Google does, Apple's going to copy. So it's just a question of which one comes first and how long it takes for the other one to introduce the same features. Email, Google uses Gmail, which is probably the #1 email program that's used around the world. And Google also has Google Photos. And Google Photos has the advantage of offering free, unlimited storage for all of your photos. So that's a good feature. Data privacy and security. This has always been one of the features that iPhone promotes, and they probably do have a little bit better data privacy and security and ease of use, but that's changing also. And you'll see in Android 10, they're adding a lot more privacy features as well. Talking about hardware, well, Android phones, you can still get earphone jacks, headphone jacks. If you're into that, you don't have to go out and get an adapter like you do with the iPhone. They also offer the ability to put an SD card in there. So an SD card, those little cards that you put in your phone that gives you more storage. So you're not limited to the storage that comes with your phone. Other things, you can do wireless charging. You can get phones that have longer battery life, faster displays. And iPhone, again, will copy all of these features, but they will, each one will eventually come out with the same. Android offers a lot of good camera features, photography features. Huawei has just introduced a 5x optical zoom on their phones, so you'll see a lot more of that type of thing. There's night mode. Phones are coming out with 3 cameras, even 4 cameras. So there are a lot of advances in the photographic area. Now, as far as updates goes, the iPhone is probably better on updates, but that's going to change because now what Google is doing is they have a new system called Project Mainline. So what they're going to be doing in the future is rather than doing a full system update, you'll be able to go to the Google Play Store and just get interim updates periodically. And that'll keep your phone up to date. You won't have to wait to get Android 11 or Android 12. You'll get a lot of the features much faster. And finally, the thing you can do with Android is you can customize it, which you can't do with iPhone. You can customize it with widgets. You can put in different launchers. You can actually make an Android phone look like an iPhone simply by putting in an iPhone launcher onto your Android phone. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the Android 10 features. David talked about dark mode on the iPhone. Well, guess what? Dark mode is also on the Google phone. Actually, Google's system has had dark mode for a while, but it's been on individual apps. So now what they're doing is it's system-wide. So you can get, in Android 10, you can get dark mode in all the on your entire phone. And it saves on battery, supposedly. Gesture navigation. This is something that they also copied from Apple. So you saw David talking about gesture navigation, and the Google system has the same thing. So, give you a turn.
But the big thing is if it's nighttime or you're in a darker situation or a situation where a light, bright, shiny UI may not be appropriate, you can flip over to a dark theme and it looks like this. So from an Android standpoint, dark theme is a system level thing where it changes settings, menus, that sort of thing. As far as your apps go, well, developers are going to have to build out support to support this system level dark theme. So there are some apps that already support it. A whole bunch of Google apps have it built out. There's more on the way. You should have Gmail before long, but things like photos. You can see dark theme, and if I turn that off, it flips back to a light theme. Google News is another one. So light theme, turn dark theme off or back on. Sorry, it flips to dark. So some of these apps used to have their own toggle, so you could manually do it individually by app. In many ways now, they're going to follow whatever your system is set at. I don't know if you're going to love that or not, but that's what we've got. So we now have a dark theme, and again, you'll see Gmail get there eventually, and any of those other apps that aren't quite dark. So that's number one. Let's talk about gestures, because while you can see I have the Android Pie pill gesture down here, or 2 button setup, or whatever we're calling it, there are full system gestural navigation controls that you may want to give some run to. Now to access those, we go into settings, so we scroll to the bottom, and in system, and then gestures, you want system navigation. So the 2 button is what I'm running, and that's been around on Google's phone since Android Pie. You've seen it on some other phones. Everyone's kind of doing their own thing with navigation. But the 2 buttons started rolling out a little bit. The 3 button is still an option. This is your more traditional Android setup, which you may have on your phone now with a back, home, and app switcher. The big change here, though, is this gesture navigation. So Google went full gestures, where it removes all buttons. You can see all that's down there now is that little sliver, and that is kind of the area that you're supposed to target when you're trying to do anything. So to do anything, well, you swipe up on that area and let go, and that takes you home. You can swipe up and hold, and that gets you into your app switcher. If you're in an app and you swipe across that, it actually takes you whichever way you swipe to, whatever app might be in your carousel of apps. So you can see if I'm here and I want to go to photos, well, I should be able to swipe that way. Well, a little confusing there, but you can kind of just keep swiping through these, and it'll take you into whatever apps you have open. So there's that move, and again, swipe up and hold. You see your app drawer then shows up, and then you can get into your app drawer if you want. If we are in this area, you can still swipe up to get rid of things, just like that. So the big thing is you have this sort of home gesture. So if you're in something, swipe up, takes you. That's kind of it. How do you go back? Well, this is where things get a little more interesting. So if I'm in something like settings and I tap in here and I need to go back a screen, you actually swipe from the side, and that takes you back. And you'll notice there's a little arrow. I swipes me over. See that there? And this actually works from both sides. So if I swipe in from the side over here, see that little arrow, and it takes me back. So that's how you go back.
Okay, and then going on, we also have a lot more things. Locations. People are worried about phones tracking where they're going. Well, a lot of the apps do require that they be able to know what location you're at, and you may want that. For example, if you're using the camera app to take pictures, or if you're using the maps, for example, you certainly want location there to get your directions and so on. So they now have the ability to turn it off for a specific app. So it will pop up a little thing that will ask you, do you want to always allow your location, don't allow your location, or just allow it for the app that might be currently looking for it. Okay, then focus mode. You may, this was a new feature which allows you to kind of pause some of the apps that may be open on your phone so they don't distract you while you're concentrating on a specific app. They've added parental controls. In addition to the dark mode, you can actually add different themes and have different colors, accent colors on your phone. Another interesting feature is live captions. And what live captions is, it's kind of like instant subtitles. And here's an example of that.
Level toggle that flips the UI.
It's like captions over that audio. Picture yourself and say, you know, that headphones, you want to consume a video. You need the library picture done in airplane mode or whatever. Live caption works with capability of automatic recognition. And over the last first OS can find captions and that's the one level for almost any app on the device.
So that could be something that's quite interesting. If you're in a place where you don't want to annoy others, you don't have your headphones with you, and you want to watch a video, you'll actually be able to pop up these subtitles or live captions right on the screen. Another thing they're starting to do is introduce smart replies. You may have seen that if you're using Gmail or in texting, where they will come up with a suggestion of what your reply should be for a specific email that you might have gotten. So that's another way to use artificial intelligence and try to be one step ahead of you. Then there's, in the area of sound, audio, they have a sound amplifier. Basically, if you're using headphones, it will allow you to filter out background noise, or if you're hard of hearing, it will actually allow you to amplify the sounds, the background sounds that you want to hear but can't hear. And another thing that they've been doing is they're going to be introducing a Bluetooth connection from your phone, your Android phone, to hearing aids. And let's take a look at that.
Level. 466 million people have disabled hearing loss worldwide, and millions more join the tally yearly. Engineers from Google, Cochlear, and GN Hearing have worked tirelessly on a new kind of streaming, and today released the first software that improves the quality of life of people with hearing loss.
For the first time, people with hearing loss can stream music and phone calls directly to the hearing devices if they have an Android phone. We hope that people will enjoy this new streaming capability and be able to connect with their loved ones, people that matter to them, and ultimately make life sound better.
The first users are excited about the new streaming option.
The benefits have been huge. I used to have a telecoil around my neck, which used to connect to my phone, which at times was challenging to hear the voices, but now my hands are free. I have direct streaming straight to my phone. I don't have to hold anything. I can do all sorts of day-to-day activities without having to hold the phone.
Cochlear and GN Hearing are the first companies to offer direct streaming from Android devices via Bluetooth Low Energy. Connectivity and accessibility are a cornerstone of our approach to product development. Building the right partnerships is a key part of our success. Now, people with the latest technology from Cochlear or GN Hearing can be the first to access this latest technology advancement.
With Android streaming is wonderful.
It's very convenient. It means I don't have to wear a third device. So it's very convenient and very effective.
Google Pixel 3 and Pixel 3a are the first Android phones to support direct streaming to ReSound Lynx Quattro and Beltone Amaze hearing aids and the Cochlear Nucleus 7 sound processor. Find out more on Cochlear's, ReSound's, and Google's websites.
Okay, then next question might be, which phones are going to be updated? Apple's a little bit ahead of Google. They come out with iOS 13 a little prior to Google's introduction of Android 10. Android 10 did come out last month, but there were only 2 phones that you were able to get it on. Their big intro actually is going to be this coming Tuesday, October 15th, when they introduce a lot of their new hardware, including the Pixel phone. What Google does is, unlike iPhone or Apple that manufactures their own phones, Google has a flagship phone that sets the standards, and then they let all the other manufacturers that produce Android phones come up with their own hardware with all of the same features. So the Pixel phone is Google's phone. That'll be out, or at least the Pixel 4 will be out on Tuesday. So all the Google Pixel phones immediately get Android 10. They did actually last month. So if you had any of the Pixel models, you can already have Android 10 on there. The Samsung Galaxy phones, those probably will be out in January. Some of them might be sooner. Usually around March, you can probably expect the Galaxy 11, and that'll certainly have Android 10 as well. LG phones probably in January. The OnePlus phones, those are already out, so Android 10 is available on those. Motorola, probably next month, and same with HTC. Okay, let's take a look at some of the other advantages of Android over the iOS world. There's a lot of the phones have been using fingerprint scanners in recent years. Apple introduced the Face ID, face identification, and of course Google copied that. So they, with Android 10, you'll be able to get hardware that has that as well. With their system, they have something called Face Unlock, which allows you to do face identification without even lifting up your phone from, it could be sitting on a table, and it'll identify you. It'll be supposedly available on the Pixel 4 coming out on Tuesday. And there's also a rumor that what Apple will be doing is they're going to be going to a system where they're actually using dual biometric identification. So they're going to have a system with both face identification and touchscreen fingerprint. So you won't, you can actually be able to put your finger anywhere on the screen, and it will identify your fingerprint. So that's something where Apple may be a little bit ahead of the Android system. We talked a little bit about storage. With Android phones, you can add an SD card, so you can expand your storage. You can't do that with an iPhone. You've got always-on displays with an Android phone, and they're starting now to go to folding phones. The foldable phones, you'll see a lot more of that in 2020 and in coming years. And those will use all these capabilities as well. Another area that Android surpasses Apple is they do allow you to have multiple users on the same phone. You can have a guest account on there, so you can set up an account for your grandchild or whatever, so they can't mess with your apps.
That's what you really want. You want your grandkids on your phone.
Yeah. But they're going to grab the phone anyway to play with whatever games they want to play with. Another thing you can do with a Android phone is you can plug it into your PC, the USB port, and it's not just for photos, but you have full access to the phone. So it's just like you have a USB drive, and you can access whatever you need to on that phone. You can customize the home screen on your Android phone. There are all kinds of different widgets and launchers that'll change the way the phone looks. Like I say, you can even make it look like an iPhone if you so desire. And they do have one that makes it look like an old Windows phone. So they have there's a Microsoft launcher, which actually works quite well. They allow you to change you can put in whatever apps you want to do various things. So if you want to do texting with a not the app that came with your phone, you can select a different texting app, for example, different email apps and so forth. You can do what's called side loading, which lets you install apps that aren't even in the Google Store, so you can get around some of the limitations if there was an app that you really wanted that wasn't actually available yet on the Google Store. Or you can even root your phone, which gives you complete control. That's if you want to get into some really technical stuff, you can do that. Okay, and just like we did last month, after we talked about cutting the cord, we had a little special interest group where we invited people to come and talk about whatever they wanted to, not a class, just a discussion group. We'll do the same thing this month, and since we already have an Apple group to talk about your iPhones and your Macs and so forth, we'll do this one on Android phones. And that'll be on Friday the 25th. We'll try to utilize Friday mornings for this.
So that's 2 weeks, roughly.
Yeah. Okay, we'll take questions on Android phones, or if you have some questions still on iPhones as well.
I'll take your mic. Questions?
No questions?
Apparently they got an evacuation notice.
Okay, then I guess everything was well understood then. Thank you all for coming. Oh, we have one question.
We have one question.
Yeah, my question is, why are you moving away from Saturday mornings?
We were forced to because of Jameson's rights to use this room on the weekends. So we were no longer allowed to get this room on the weekend, so we had to switch to a different day.
Thank you very much to Shelley and Dave for their presentations today. And to Steve.